Well, they call him the Sky Angel Cowboy.
I can't wait to hear more details.
The voice of a little boy who called a radio station to share a story and a lesson that God showed him. A message that has now captured the world's attention.
Oh boy, a message from God. We haven't had a direct message from God in a couple of millennia, so this ought to be pretty profound. Let us in on the secret, Sky Angel Cowboy.
This is 13-year-old Logan Henderson. He lives on a ranch in the middle of Nebraska. Isolated from much of the world, he often listens to KSBJ Christian radio out of Houston, Texas, which he picks up on Sky Angel. In late October, Logan made a call to the station that would soon be heard around the world.
Okay, so it turns out that Sky Angel is a provider of 4 riveting channels, which its website boasts as 4 of America's favorite television channels. Clearly, Logan's not alone in his desperation for media stimulation driving him to rely on Sky Angel. I mean, what American doesn't frequent channels like Angel 1, KTV, Hunt Channel, and Angel 2? Well, let's hear what little Logan had to say to the broadcasters.
Hey, Mike, can I talk to you?
You bet, Logan. What's up?
I want to tell you something that God just told me.
Okay.
Last night, my dad was roping this calf. And this calf had been born from a really old cow. She didn't have really the greatest milk. She didn't have, like, the vitamin C and stuff.
Okay.
She broke her back. And this morning I went out and put her down myself.
Alright, so far no message from God, but I feel genuinely bad for this kid. He is clearly isolated from most of civilization and has to work a hard life, which many older, lazier, and more comfortable Americans reap the benefits of when we enjoy our milk, hamburgers, and other luxuries hoisted into our shopping carts on the sore shoulders of America's farmers. No kid Logan's age should have to work that hard, let alone witness a newborn, malnourished calf break her back, then have to put her down himself the next morning. Well, Logan, I can't wait to hear the message that God told you to pass on.
I was talking to God. I was asking God why. She was special.
Good question. If I had Logan's direct hotline to God, I'd ask why about a lot of things too. I'd ask why our eternal afterlife can only be a fiery torture or glorious paradise with nothing in between. I'd ask why the single most important contingency as to which of those eternities we enter is based on what we believe rather than what we do. I'd ask God why, if he does exist and our belief in him trumps all other needs, would he design a world for us which offers more plausible, reliably observable, and testable explanations for everything that can and has been perceived as evidence for his existence thus far. Sorry for rambling off topic. Christians tend to tell me I ask too many questions. I'm just going to shut up and let Logan tell us God's answer for why he made Logan have to kill his special baby cow.
And God said, you know, Logan, my son was special, but he died for a purpose. It's kind of the same thing. That calf was close to me, and God's son was close to him.
Logan, you're so right. It's true.
What? That's not a message from God at all. Even if we believe the Christian narrative, that's not close to being an accurate comparison. Logan's trying to tell himself that there's a reason for something awful happening in his life that he can't otherwise find a reason for, but comparing it to something else that there's no logical reason for. There's no purpose whatsoever for the sacrifice of Jesus Christ, even in the context of Christian mythology. Jesus was the immaculately conceived physical manifestation of God, which already is nonsense, because there was no reason for Adam to be immaculately conceived. God just willed him into existence out of dirt. Don't you think Jesus would have gotten a lot more people to believe in him and follow him if instead of performing miracles like water to wine or fish to bread multiplication, that God just poofed him into existence as an adult male in the middle of the most heavily populated place on the planet at the time? Okay, so Jesus' alleged existence and how it came about was a logical mishap, or at least a missed opportunity on the part of God. But the sacrifice Logan's alluding to is even less logical. Apparently, Jesus had to be sacrificed so that God could forgive everyone who lived after that, no worries about the ones before that, forgiveness for their sins, which they were guilty of whether they'd sinned or not, because just merely being a human creature of God automatically makes you a filthy pile of sin in desperate need for an ancient blood sacrifice in order to be cleansed. I know Logan's young, and all the adults who eat up his understandably childlike reasoning are swept away by Logan's emotional, genuine story. So let's try multiple choice here. What would have made more sense for God to do if he wanted to forgive humans for being the walking sin bags he allegedly created us to be, other than slowly becoming a human so he could sacrifice himself to himself and satiate his thirst for blood? A, just forgive us without anyone dying. You know, that thing most humans are capable of doing. B, not create us with the natural burden of sin in the first place, regardless of what we do. C, all of the above. If you chose C, you're correct. The thing that makes me saddest about Logan's story is that he wanted this calf to grow up healthy and strong, and for whatever reason it was special to him. But it'll never get that chance. In the case of the Jesus story, Jesus got to grow up. He wasn't born to an unhealthy mother and slain by God when his spine was broken as a baby. Then when Jesus, as an adult, finally did die, he only stayed dead for 3 days and got to spend the rest of eternity in paradise with God again. With himself again. Depends on your interpretation. Regardless, Logan's calf doesn't get to come back. There was literally no purpose for Jesus' death, nor any real sacrifice. Being nailed to a cross wouldn't even hurt a god or a demigod unless God wanted it to hurt. Before I let this go, the whole Jesus rising after 3 days thing never really sat well with me. Where did the body of zombie Jesus go? I'm told he ascended to heaven, and that's why he was never found again. But really no other human in history who's been accused of going to heaven after they died ever needed to take their earthly remains with them. It would have made a lot more of an impression for zombie Jesus to actually do something after he rose, rather than just not being somewhere that people thought he was. And if the whole point of being human was to feel human pain and limitations, then why was he capable of miracles? And if his human body needed to go to heaven with him, then why doesn't any other humans? Sorry, I know, I'm asking too many questions again. Unlike Logan, I just don't seem to be satisfied by the lack of real answers from an omnipresent, omnipotent, and eternal God who doesn't seem to have the time to respond.